in love with that powerful hand attack. And granted, when you think about it, Ethan, right? Because the amount of cards that players draw, I mean, it's a great single prize attacker that can actually get you some cheeky wins here and there. But the thing is, I mean, it might be a great single prize attacker to go into the Slow King, but is he going to be able to make the trade before Ross is going to strike while the iron is hot and take 3 prizes thanks to that Triforce?
One card that was of important note for Abaan, it seems, was that Zera Aura from Destined Rivals for 3 energy. Of course, you got to ignore that with Seek Inspiration. You can deal 210 damage to a Pokemon EX in play. It's important, of course, to knock out something like Pheasantipity EX, Meowth EX as well. To see how Abaan adapts to that as a potential attacking option too. Liabilities in play, having Pheasantipity or Meowth. Of course, the upside is more stability in the setup, more card draw. There's always risk to putting these Pokemon EX in play.
And the big thing about these open deck lists, Ethan, is that Abaan should see all of this coming down the line, right? I mean, Meowth EX does have that great attack tuck tail when it gets stuck into the active, right? But just like its art in perfect order, it really is usually sitting on the bench for a majority of the game unless things go awry here. So does have to keep a close eye out for it here, but still, I mean, Abaan is at least playing that unfair stamp as the ace spec and a special red card to try and throw Ross off the game in terms of having a giant hand, but here's the problem. You know Ross is playing a Lily's Clefairy EX.
Looks like both players understanding the counts in their opponent's deck. Start to construct those strategies, figure out how the game will be played out. We'll see things like the Alakazam come into play. Curious if Dragapult's Phantom Dive is the approach over and over again, and more importantly, how quickly can Kyurem get involved for Ross Cawthon?
And still though, Ethan, I mean, you gotta talk about it. This isn't top 8 yet. This is still asymmetrical top cut. So the winner of this match will be going forward to fighting Rahul already in that top 8. And like we had mentioned a little bit before, you know Rahul doesn't want to see Ross anywhere near him.
So much riding on this match for both players. This is as far as they've gotten in recent time in the top cut for an international championship. A big missing place on Ross's accomplishments on his resume is a strong finish in the modern era of Pokemon at an IC. If he can make it here, if he can continue his run, he'll continue to cement himself as one of the game's greats.
I believe it is 6 Dragapults within our top cut, Ethan. And you know that the people out there want to see the king fall to another king and a Usurper king, why not? And because of this crazy way that this deck can truly get itself powered up in such a short amount of time, I'm wondering if Abaan is going to take the going first away from Ross in terms of trying to at least thwart his setup just a little bit.
Point flip always a big factor in the Pokemon TCG, and in this matchup specifically, as we get word, we'll make sure that you all get word at home. Prize cards are going out. Double Dreepy in the prize cards for Abaan, as well as Pheasantipity EX with Trifrost as a threat and the Night Stretcher prize. This could be detrimental right off the bat.
Ethan, I mean, it may be a blessing in disguise, at least, that Pheasantipity is completely out of play. But the problem is, if Ross is going to strike first, that means that, I mean, Abaan is just going to have to use Dracloaks and that Recon Directive, if he's even able to have them here. But still, for Ross's prizes, I mean, 1 copy of Academy at Night and 1 Slowpoke, not the worst, but I'm always looking at that Wondrous Patch count, because you can't attach more than 1 energy per turn.
We are getting underway, ladies and gentlemen. Abaan starting things out with the Budew active. Dreepy on bench, attach and pass as Ross opens with the secret box, the perfect card to play, staring down a Budew on the following turn.
This is exactly what you want to see, Ethan, if you are Ross. There's no item lock because Abaan went first here, so taking that essential setup away that Ross is at least going to have to wait one more turn to evolve into the Slow King here, but why not open your ace spec, this secret box? It is an insanely powerful ace spec. It was really at the top of what players were really trying to choose with their ace spec for quite some time. We were able to grab a tool, a supporter card, a stadium, and an item as well. So this is going to at least guarantee Ross a lot of setup here, and maybe even if he wants to, Ethan, refresh the hand with Lily's Determination and potentially see 8 more cards.
Immediately put onto the battlefield, Lily's Determination. Great supporter card for the early game, integral to almost every deck in this top cut. Trading a Poképad on the discard pile for another one from the deck. We did also see Academy Knight get discarded. There is still the option to grab a tool card. You see that hidden MVP for Ross, Lucky Helmet, brought to the hand.
And it's a perfect card to throw onto this Serendipity as well here for Ross, assuming that he doesn't want to promote any type of single prize because you know how much Dragapult loves its multi-prize knockouts here. But instead, if Abaan were to attack into this Serendipity, this would actually just give Ross a couple more cards to work with. But unfortunately, no, we're just going to put this Lucky Helmet onto the Slowpoke here, choosing to use Lily's Determination, and hopefully finding this telepathic energy. So Ross is going to be able to sift out more Slowpokes, maybe even that Latias EX as well.
It's tough to leave Serendipity active at the end of this turn. That 10 damage can be so relevant. So a smart choice here to keep that Lucky Helmet around for later. Hand gets shuffled in. Ross still plenty to do on this turn. Slowpoke down, but there's more on the agenda for sure. 8 cards shuffled and drawn from the deck. That telepathic psychic energy. There's 4 copies in this deck for a reason. To get out those basic Pokemon, Latias, Kangaskhan as well would be a great draw. And finds the telepathic psychic energy plus Kangaskhan. I've got to imagine that's exactly what Ross is looking for on turn 1.
And with none of the support Pokemon in terms of those psychic support Pokemon prize, you can at least guarantee that Ross is going to be able to find that Latias. And like you had mentioned, Ethan, we'll be able to at least bring Mega Kangaskhan into the active to start using that run errand ability.
Immediately sifted to the top of the deck. Slowpoke number 2 and Latias EX coming down. And we'll most likely see Mega Kangaskhan EX get involved and start supporting the Slow King for the following turn.
This is exactly what you want to see if you're Ross. You are ready to go for that next turn. Does also have a Wondrous Patch as well. He could even manually retreat the Serendipity if it came to it, because he does have a Wondrous Patch in hand for the next turn. But here we go, Run Errand 2, big cards, finds another Slowpoke as well. So you love to see that if you're Ross. You got 3 Slowpokes ready to go for that evolution next turn. I mean, if I'm Abaan with only 1 Dreepy available, because 2 of them are currently in the prizes right now, I might get a little stressed.
What does Abaan have in hand? Can't quite see the options. Itchy Pollen already available for the turn. Considering benching Chi-Yu, just Crispin as the supporter, this may signal Abaan not having much to work with in this spot.
And you want to talk about a turn 2 Trifrost, Ethan. It's getting dangerously close to do so. Most players in this spot would choose to use something like a Lily's Determination to refresh the hand and see a fresh 8 cards here. But it's going to be potentially up to this Budu to stop anything. But we could be seeing the fastest game 1 here within this top cut. Let's see if Abaan's going to at least have another Pokemon to bench, because you're right, Ethan. He might be forced to bench this Chi-Yu.
Not what you want to see if you're Abaan Ahmed at a big-time, high-stakes match in Pokemon. It will be the Fire and Dark Energy. Fire Energy attached, Darkness Energy to the hand. But if there is no follow-up, you have to expect your opponent to likely have a response with how many cards they accumulated in hand the previous turn.
Still, though, it's all about whether Ross has the pieces. And granted, he will be under item lock here, but did already at least use the secret box, so he probably got himself into a couple of cards. Now, granted, Ethan, what he probably needs at this point is to find Cypher Maniac's code breaking and a Slow King and an energy, and that can guarantee the full swing.
The game may end this turn. If Ross can put together a Trifrost, all 3 of these Pokemon will be knocked out, and I believe it's there already. Psychic Energy in hand, Slow King, and has the Cypher Maniac's code breaking to copy the Trifrost attack. Ross Cawthon is going to clear this entire board and win the game on turn number 2.
No Shaman, no problem, Ethan. And you can see Abaan already pick up the cards as the writing was on the wall. And Ross, with this mastery of Slow King, Shaman or not, he's able to get that Trifrost on turn 2. Thanks to that opening of the secret box, you know Abaan is probably extremely stressed out, but the granted part is, Ethan, 2 of those Dreepies were at least in the prizes. Let's hope for some better prize cards next game.
Absolute masterclass from Ross on how to sequence through early turns, had the secret box, set up his Pokemon, and was able to fire off that Trifrost. It didn't matter if Abaan flooded the board with Dreepy. They were all going to be knocked out, did not have the response, did not have the supporter cards, and is now 1 game away from potential elimination in this tournament.
2 legends in their own right. Abaan still the first regional champion of this season for the LATAM region, but of course you're sitting across from Ross Cawthon, most amount of Worlds invites tied for that record, and he's doing it with Slow King here too. And I know Rahul Reddy waiting in the wings, kind of nervous now that Ross is up 1-0 because the Slow King could be taking out the only Crustle in asymmetrical top cut.
Abaan will have the advantage of going first in game number 2. It's a little bit more wiggle room to put some Dracloak in play, and if you can avoid that turn 2 Trifrost for a player, Dragapult EX getting into play just gives you a huge sigh of relief.
Certainly hoping that the prize cards are going to work on Abaan's side as well. I believe Ross is going to have to take a mulligan here, so at least Abaan is going to see some more cards here, as Ross just going to have to shuffle back in until he finds a basic Pokemon, and that could be any of his basics. Of course, I think he always wants to start that Slowpoke, but still, I mean, he was able to work around having a Pheasantipity in play, but that's only because Abaan had nothing to counteract with.
How about a Mega Kangaskhan start for Ross? That would be even more excellent. Mulligan on his side, so Abaan will get a little bit of stability for his troubles. Prize cards will go out for both players, and I think we are ready to get into our second game. Game number 2. Abaan will start things out going first. See the openers, see what cards are available for both of these players. Does start Pheasantipity, so it's at least a Pokemon that's not KO'd by Trifrost, and Buddy Buddy Puffin will get Dreepy into play. As far as things go for Abaan, we'll have to see how the rest of the hand looks, as Ross is, wow, triple telepathic psychic energy. This setup may be a bit difficult for him to get together.
This is exactly what you don't want to see as Ross, because that telepathic energy showed how much use it had in that last game, being able to sift out not only another Slowpoke, but that key Latias EX as well to move the basic Pokemon around thanks to Skyliner, but still does at least have the opportunity to move things around depending on the hand at this point here. But I think it's very funny, Ethan. I mean, Ross started the Pheasantipity last game, so why not have Abaan start this game, as it's right on over to his turn.
Pokepad for Ross in the hand. We'll get the bad news of those telepathic psychic energy being unavailable for the time being. Not sure if the rest of the hand for Ross was too strong. No Lily's Determination, it seemed, and if you have a slow start against Dragapult and give them time, you give Dragapult an inch, you give them a mile.
Well, thankfully for Ross, Abaan is playing a slower version of Dragapult, so no rare candy, Crispin shenanigans that we are going to be seeing this game. More so along the lines of getting those Monkey Dory set up, even with things like Risky Ruins as well, that is going to be able to move those damage counters onto the bench here. The Lucky Helmet onto the Slowpoke. It does have the Boomerang energy with the Lily's Determination, a fresh 8 cards for Ross.
Hiding in the hand, Lily's Determination coming in clutch. If that supporter card was not there, Ross was definitely in deep trouble. Some stability with that Lucky Helmet attached to the active. Ross will see 8 cards as things stand, hoping to see a Latias as well as a Mega Kangaskhan to once again have Run Errand get in the mix.
I'm looking at a Bond side of the board, and I'm wondering, Ethan, if ever Crispin to Pheasantipity to Cruel Arrow, the Slowpoke in the active might be the play. The thing is about the Boomerang energy, you can't Wondrous patch it back in, so that would require Ross to have a little bit more of a specific amount of cards here. Let's see what cards he was able to draw off of the Lily's Determination. I'm seeing some cards thrown down. I'm going to assume that that is going to at least be an Ultra Ball.
Ultra Ball, great card in the Pokemon TCG. Consistency is key. Having your deck function, always the #1 priority. Debating discarding this Stadium card, and the Brave Bengal also hitting the bin. Maybe something that could bite Ross Cawthon in the back later on in the game.
This point, I think he's just probably trying to go as much consistency as possible here. Ross does have a second Ultra Ball in the hand as well. So the possibility of, yes, getting Mega Kangaskhan EX and this Latias EX is up and running. The problem is what you have to discard to get to that point, right, Ethan? This Brave Bengal, like you had mentioned, going down. The Academy at Night going down as well. Actually using it for, is that a Meowth EX instead?
Ross is a gym leader, ladies and gentlemen. He has collected all 8 badges.
So glad you saw that too.
Yeah, you know, we have some crazy technology in the Big 2-6. So Ross Cawthon, a serious competitive trainer, plenty of gym badges. And this shows a little bit of weakness for Ross in this spot. Can avoid benching Meowth this turn because of that deck list knowledge, knowing that there are no Team Rocket's Watchtower in this list, as Abaan does have a much better start. The Dracloak Evolution plus Lily's Determination, yet to use Recon Directive, looking to stabilize the board even further.
And you know what Abaan is looking for. It is that tiny grass Pokemon that has certainly defined this meta, and it will be that Budew to prevent Ross from using item cards next turn. Now, granted, Ross is at least going to be able to hopefully get into a Slowking next turn, but the question is what comes after that, especially because Ross's deck does rely on Pokepad, especially to find those attackers, and especially finding Kyurem. You're going to leave it up to a chance of a Lily's Determination to get all of your pieces together?
Does seem like a big ask. There's the Buddy Poffin. See if Budew is the choice. Considering Abra as well, and that was a question I posed earlier. Will this Pokemon get involved in the mix? Potentially foregoing Budew. It is an easy knockout on the following turn for Ross. Can just use that tackle attack and take it down. And I wonder if that's the concern for Abaan of giving early, easy prize cards to Ross compared to putting some more Pokemon in play that will help stabilize the board on the following turns.
I think Abaan is technically okay with Ross only having 2 Slowpoke and no support Pokemon as well available, especially because Ross didn't grab Mega Kangaskhan or Latias off of the Ultra Ball. Instead, it was that Meowth EX. So that's signifying to Abaan that maybe Ross's hand is a lot weaker than before, as that second Recon Directive is going to be able to come in. And Ethan, as I always like to say, this is a great turn by having a Dracloak in play, but you really just want that energy.
Considering the rest, as you mentioned, energy coming down onto Dracloak, and the floodgates may open for Ross, considering the retreat into Abra as a potential pivot thanks to that teleporter ability. Really thinking about if it's worth discarding the energy attached to Pheasantipity. Doesn't seem like it. Ross does draw into that Academy of Night. Is there a world, is there a way where he gets this knockout this turn?
It is very scary though, Ethan, the more you think about it, right? There are only 3 Pokemon on the Dragapult line, 2 Dracloaks and 1 Dreepy available, because the 4th and final Dreepy is actually in the prizes this turn. So if Ross is able to string along at this Trifrost here, that is going to knock out every single possibility of getting a Dragapult next turn. Dare I say, Ethan, does it come down to this Lily's Determination and Academy at Night to get it done?
Even going to play this Ultra Ball, Slowpoke, and Cypher Maniac going to the discard pile. Will almost certainly be a Slowking evolved. And with this evolution, there is a combination of cards that is not even absurd. Ross just needs to find himself a Psychic Energy and a Pokemon to copy, being that Kyurem. And if he can find those 2 pieces, the floodgates open, and it becomes so difficult for Abaan to get back in this game.
Benching the Lily's Clefairy EX, it doesn't necessarily even need to go down this turn, Ethan, but it's more so along the lines that Ross just doesn't want to see this after he shuffles his hand for 8 brand new cards. So like you had said, it's just a energy and a Pokepad to find Kyurem, or finding Kyurem itself, or even something like an Ultra Ball as well to search out that Kyurem, and then using Academy at Night to throw it on the top of the deck and use Seeking Inspiration to wipe all of the possibilities of finding Dragapult off the board. 8 cards, Ethan.
Impactful 8. Do we see the cards necessary? Doesn't look like it. No energy cards, Psychic Energy not to be found. We of course know there are multiple prizes, so the likelihood is not high. But yeah, just those Boomerang Energy can evolve Slowpoke number 2 into Slowking. But a huge break for Abaan to not have all these Dracloak wiped off the board.
It is so unfortunate, too, because Ross had all of the pieces ready to go, and by him not even taking a knockout this turn, this is go time for Abaan. And you can see what Ross is going towards, this plan B at this point, to say, you know what, okay, I'm just not going to be able to find Trifrost this turn, and I know a Phantom Dive is coming, and Abaan moving very quickly here, just needs to find that energy attachment to get going.
Now the percentage of this matchup starts to shift in Abaan's favor. The more he can allow himself to put Dragapult EX into play. We'll see Recon Directive number 1, number 2 now being used. Already has Crispin and a Dragapult EX in the hand. Considering that Xerosic's Machinations or Boss's Orders as one of these 2 cards to be selected.
Well, doesn't have the energy directly within the hand here to reliably find the energy. I would say throwing not only a Dragapult into play, but then kind of adding insult to injury by putting in the Xerosic's Machinations there to really limit how much Ross is doing this turn would be so detrimental. And maybe that's what he's still looking for here with the double use of Pokepad to thin the deck. This would be exciting. Maybe there's even a way for Abaan to retreat this Pheasantipity and use something like a Night Stretcher to add it on to that Dracloak, and then use Xerosic's Machinations to really kind of throw Ross a ray.
Lots of options. Abaan will think through them all and go for the best ability. Speaking of which, Psychic Draw from that Kadabra being used as that Pokemon comes into play. But due to the bottom of the deck after that last Recon Directive is used, and as you mentioned, can now retreat and Night Stretcher the energy back. There is a Night Stretcher prized for Abaan, so that would mean for the time being, no more recovery on Pokemon or energy cards from the discard pile.
Might just have to play it safe here and play the Crispin. And it seems like the most stable play out of all of the ones that you could do. I think a lot of players kind of lean towards the most aggressive ways of thwarting, especially a deck like Slowking that doesn't really, as long as it doesn't have that Mega Kangaskhan in play, can't reliably get cards down the line.
Will be that Fire and Psychic Energy found from the deck. See which Pokemon this goes on to. It is the Psychic Energy to Dracloak. Fire Energy put into the hand. All abilities being used. No Pokemon knocked out. Flip the Script cannot be used. Dragapult EX comes into play. Dragapult number 2 as well wants to make sure Trifrost is not an efficient attacking option. So protecting this Dracloak, retreating into Dragapult EX, and we will see Abaan fire off the first attack. Phantom Dive will KO Slowking, and he'll decide how he wants to put 6 damage counters on these bench Pokemon.
Assuming you always want to sprinkle 1 onto the Latias EX for the multi-prize potential for Abaan down the line, but a very key 6 damage counters here that need to go out. That Lily's Clefairy is technically ready to go, and there are enough benched Pokemon on both sides for that Full Moon Rondo to take the knockout, especially thanks to Fairy Zone here. Now, granted, Latias is also a funny attacker as well, but it could just be 6 on that Slowking, but once again, it is going to be that 1 damage counter on Latias for good measure. Let's see if Ross is going to be able to stitch something else through.
Yeah, and the 5 on Meowth ends up lining perfectly. You can use Phantom Dive 2 turns in a row, and it will do exactly enough damage to KO Meowth EX. As it stands, Abaan can win this game with just 2 more Phantom Dives. goes down to 5 prize cards. Slowking lined up for another 1 prize, and then Latias plus Meowth going down will be exactly those final 4 prize cards. Abaan looks to be in a solid spot in this game, pending he can fire off those attacks.
Well, if you want to talk about bench liabilities, Ethan, the question is, do you bench Fezandipity as well? That is another 2 prize liability. But the thing is, Ross has no draw at this point, right? So has to use the Cypher Maniac's code breaking?
Gotta hope there's a Fezandipity now. You've invested a lot into this supporter card. So you can eye up the options in the deck. Seems to be multiple Psychic Energy cards, that Wondrous Patch and a Psychic Energy in the hand, potentially a Lily's Clefairy action getting involved. Not sure we've seen a Psychic Energy hit the discard pile just yet. Deck will be shuffled, 2 cards put on top, and he'll most likely find some sort of way to draw into those cards.
Well, if Fezandipity is going to come into play, does at least have the Kangaskhan here. So flip the script for those tailored 3 cards here. Double Wondrous Patch as well. But unfortunately, Ethan, it's running a little bit late here to the party. Does at least have a Pokepad to set up another Slowpoke. But you have to be assuming that, I mean, granted, do you even want to swing with the Slow King this turn? Does at least have the Wondrous Patch, so it seems like it makes the most amount of sense, but does he have a switch card in order to use it?
Don't necessarily need to make things too fancy. You can manually attach to the Slow King, free retreat with Skyliner, and there is that Zeraora with Thunder Raid in the hand, so you can take a knockout on that benched Fezandipity and respond in kind. Academy at Night being played down, Meowth the X retreating for free thanks to that Skyliner ability. And Inspiration strikes more than once in this set. Use that Academy at Night to put this Pokemon on top, even considering placing, which Pokemon is that? Metagross in play. And thanks to Lily's Clefairy, instead, going to just take the knockout with that attack. 300 damage times 2 weakness. Ross Cawthon takes down that Dragapult EX to go to 4 prize cards, saving that Zeraora potentially for later on in the game.
Well, you know that Fezandipity isn't going anywhere realistically, right? So it feels pretty good to just use the Zeraora as an ace in the hole for him there. But the problem is for Ross, Abaan has done an amazing job of setting up this Dragapult EX as well onto the bench here. And it comes down to, Ethan, what we were actually talking about last turn, where it's, does Abaan want to use this Night Stretcher to grab another Psychic Energy here, or does he already have one in hand? He's going to be able to at least sift through the deck. Another Xerosix Machinations as well. I'm assuming it's for the Alakazam matchup here, but look at all of the cards, Ethan. There's tons to work with.
Now playing Ultra Ball from the hand. Does need to choose 2 cards to get rid of. Release Determination and Badoo. And immediately looking at that Rosa's Encouragement supporter card. Because Abaan is behind on prizes, can use that to fully power up one of his Pokemon in play. Instead, it will be Alakazam for the time being. That Psychic Draw ability, and more importantly, powerful hand as a 1 prizing attack option to force Ross to have Boss's Orders to close the game out.
Why not just add more draw to a deck that has draw built in and draws right into the Psychic Energy there, Ethan? You're talking about the amount of resources that Abaan can't use because there's not that much recovery, and why not just draw into it? And even the supporter for turn, like you had mentioned, Rosa's Encouragement, essentially setting Abaan up for the rest of the game and potentially going to go for so many prize cards next turn. He's got so many damage counters to spread.
And this game is basically locked up 100%. Ross has no way to heal Pokemon in play, no way to pick up Pokemon in play, and more importantly, no way to disrupt the hand, meaning Abaan sitting on Boss's Orders with 2 Dragapult fully powered up means it's essentially checkmate and GG.
I think Ross is kind of in this weird state of shock as he is going to scoop up those cards. We are going to a Game 3, everyone, in our first match here in asymmetrical top cut. And once again, Rahul ready, looking up to the stars, hoping that Ross is not going to find another energy or even prizing 4.
Excellent line found from Abaan, found the checkmate in 3, and there was nothing Ross could do. A seasoned player himself understood the situation, picked his cards up, and ladies and gentlemen, we are going to a 3rd and final game.
It is all coming down to this, Ethan. This match, believe it or not, actually determines a lot more than just the winner here. This will actually have influence over the rest of the bracket. Like we had said, the only Crustal in bracket could be going down to Slowking when there's 6 Dragapults around him. You know that's exactly what Rahul wants to see.
Pablo, assuming that Ross will go first in this game, looking for that turn to seek inspiration. How does Abaan go about these early turns to try and prevent that or make it as least impactful as possible?
If it generally is something you cannot stop, maybe limiting yourself to 2 Dreepies, and then sure, the Kyurem attack goes off, that usually leaves Slowking a little bit vulnerable. Maybe you get lucky, find that on first stamp early on, and then you rebench the other 2 Dreepies and go from there. It's essentially you start at a deficit, you let them get ahead, but then you try to stabilize afterwards. That's maybe Abaan's hope at this point, but he needs a better hand than he got in that first game.
Do you forgo using Badu in this matchup? We saw Abaan purposely go out of his way to not use that attack.
I mean, I would trust Abaan more than myself at this point, but locking down item cards, always a good strategy.
I mean, we say, Pablo, that, you know, the players up there are certainly up there for a reason, and we are certainly back here for a reason as well, providing our insights into these matches. I'm excited to see, I mean, granted, what do you think about all that energy being prized last game? Did that just lead to Ross's demise?
Yeah, it was tough. 100% difficult. Ross still found, you know, a way to try and get into that game, and he had that one turn of opportunity to get himself back. So we are getting into things. Game number 3, ladies and gentlemen. The winner will move on to our top 8. The loser will go home. Here we go, game number 3. See how this start goes. Dreepy and this as the starter for Abaan. Ross will kick things off, and what are we eyeing up on turn 1? It is going to be an Ultra Ball.
I was worried, Ethan. That could have been a great secret box turn 1 again for Ross. But like you had said, it is going to be that Ultra Ball there. Be mindful of the amount of reliable resources. And speaking of resources that are going to be locked away now, that copy of Latias EX and a copy of Mega Kangaskhan. But good news, there are multiple in the deck list. But at least Ross is going to have access to all of the energy this time.
Checking the deck, making sure he understands what pieces are available. There is still plenty of time on the clock, just under 50 minutes remaining for our third and final match. Questions to be answered. Does Ross have a way to pivot into something like Mega Kangaskhan this turn? It seems to be these early uses of that run errand ability, smooth out the steps to getting off these early Seek Inspiration attacks.
It's just so unfortunate for Ross because you know he has to bank on finding this telepathic energy if he is able to retreat this Slowpoke into the Mega Kangaskhan here. Now granted, an energy attachment wouldn't be the worst, but it is going to be this one copy of the item card switch. Will Run Errand find telepathic energy?
See a Pokepad as one of the 2 cards drawn for that Run Errand. May want to play that before a potential Badu this turn. There's the Boomerang energy. More importantly, does Ross have a supporter card for the following turn? Just Ultra Ball and a few Pokepad. It would be such a costly discard. These Pokemon search items are so important in getting set up.
Speaking of getting set up, Ethan, Ross might want to use Ultra Ball to find Meowth for that Lily's determination on the next turn. Like you had said, Badu is certainly going to come into the fray at this point, as Ross is smart enough to know that that is what Badu loves to do, and that is just turn off engines to and fro. And like you had said, this is a lot of resources going down here. Those Pokepads are key to finding Slowking without getting rid of your hand too much.
Prioritizing that Academy at night. Knows how important a turn to Trifrost can be. Meowth EX will come to the hand. Now knows because of the information of public deck lists or open deck lists that there is no stadium card, so we'll most likely just pass the turn and not put that into play. That is exactly the case. Abaan will start things off with Ultra Ball Chi-Yu hitting the discard pile along with Dawn. And it did see a couple of copies of Lily's Determination in the hand.
But even worse, even worse, Ethan, there's a couple of Dreepy in the prize cards as well again. Now that one copy of Crispin and the Risky Ruins as well definitely helped out Abaan, but we're looking at the Dreepies there. I can't believe I just called you Dreepy. Very funny, but still, I mean, Abaan, this is kind of that oh no deck check at this point where Abaan has to just come to terms with the fact that he's going to be working with a very small hand size and actually using the Ultra Ball there to grab Pheasantipity because at least it can't be Trifrosted.
That, and there are more search outs down the line for Badoo with that Buddy Poffin. Wants to maximize the use of these item cards early on in the game. Big 8 cards for Abaan. Can he potentially pivot into Badoo this turn? Can he get that second Dreepy down? Knowing both are prized just makes it so that doing that staggering play like Pablo mentioned is just that much more unlikely.
The thing is, for Ross, there is still no Latias in play, so this Mega Kangaskhan may be stuck in the active. 8 big cards. Ethan finds another Dreepy and the Pokepad here, so we'll at least be able to get into Badoo, but still, one copy of Crispin is prized. We'll have to watch out for some of the ways that he is going to be able to recover energy down the line. Now, granted, there is a Rosa's Encouragement in the deck as well, but do you really want to just use Pokepad, excuse me, to go into Badoo just to stop a potential item card?
Now, Ross has pretty clearly projected his play for the following turn. He's going to bench this Meowth EX, use that last-ditch catch, find a Lily's Determination, play it, and draw 8 cards. Now, Abaan knows that that's the case. The question becomes, how impactful is Badoo with that being the line? Looks like impactful enough, as it will be the choice from Pokepad. There's the energy already on Dreepy. It can retreat. There's energy to follow up this turn. Badoo makes his appearance in this third game. Itchy Pollen for 10, shutting off item cards on Ross's side.
Well, let's see if Ross is going to be able to get out of it. A huge top deck here for Ross, and it is going to be that telepathic psychic energy, Ethan. We were having a little bit of an issue going forward and trying to find Latias, and now this telepathic psychic energy actually allows for Ross to go into the deck and find it for free here, while also getting another Slowpoke set up. Ross could go all the way this turn now.
Ross is going to see 10 cards and could find the potential combination. Under item lock, if he can find Slowking plus that Kyurem, he'll be able to take a KO on 3 of these Pokemon in play and leave Abaan with just that Pheasantipity EX. Already has that Academy at Night, so that piece is a check already and can actually just guarantee it with the Cypher Maniac. Not even going to take a chance with Lily's Determination. We are going to see all of the Dreepy go into the discard pile, with 2 of them being a prize for Abaan.
And what does Abaan do after that, Ethan? I mean, you can absolutely try and re-establish the board thanks to those Night Stretchers, but it is so close at this point. Abaan definitely will have to find his way out of it, and the question is, can he? We'll have a little bit of draw with Pheasantipity, but those energies are going to now be in favor of grabbing the Dreepies instead.
We are going all in on this play. Seek Inspiration, no cards in hand, and discards the Kyurem. Trifrost to KO 3 Pokemon in play, leaving Abaan with just Pheasantipity EX as his only Pokemon.
The only option at this point, thanks to Abaan drawing the unfair stamp, might have to be the way that Abaan at least tries to buy some time at this point, and then maybe trying to force something into the active. But the problem is, Ethan, Ross was able to find that telepathic psychic energy last turn, and all of the Pokemon on the bench for Ross are all basic Pokemon. Latias will allow for Ross to retreat here, but now Abaan forced to use that Night Stretcher again to grab the Dreepy.
As it stands, this Slowking is stuck in the active spot. Abaan was sitting on that unfair stamp, but it's not going to have enough value. Ross has 3 cards in hand that are just those prize cards just taken. Abaan is going to wait to use that A-Spec towards later on. Could be a big make or break moment for him.
And you were talking about the Zeraora used a little bit earlier. It now may be the time to use that to target down the Pheasantipity as well, to go to a 3-2-1 prize race here. So it's very interesting to see if Abaan is going to be able to sift something through, maybe even establish one more Pokemon to get him going.
I mean, what Pokemon can you get? You've got a Night Stretcher and 2 of your Dreepy are prized. It would have to require the last use of recovery, but it's a dire need. It is necessary for Abaan. Not much else that can be done. We've already seen the attachment for turn. Flip the script has been used, and now we have to pray that Slowking gets trapped in the active spot for as long as possible. Ross will start his turn off with the draw, and look at this hand. Are there just 4 Pokemon? I'm not sure Ross has anything. No, it's just going to be a pass over. Ross drew into 3 Pokemon off the prize cards, top decks another, and now if Abaan can buy himself 1 more turn, he can get himself back into this game.
And would need to do it very, very quickly as well. And it's going back to those opening turns, Ethan, that Ross had to discard so many of those resources and tools to make that Trifrost play happen. So now Abaan has to go a little bit quicker here. Now, still, I mean, there is only 1 special red card in the deck for Abaan here, but the thing is, does he even want to use it?
Later on could definitely be impactful. We see the Recon Directive. I wonder, Emily, if Risky Ruins could get involved eventually in this spot. There is that Slowpoke on the bench. One of them is prized. Getting rid of this Academy at night. Definitely a checklist item for Abaan as Buddy Puffin gets played. There's not very many basics in the deck outside of that Abra. Just thinking through the motions, going through what is most optimal, will choose it to be put into play. Ross now on odd prize cards does limit the value of Alakazam down the line.
Yeah, and that's the big thing here too. Abaan is really going to have to use that Psychic Draw in order to keep drawing cards here, especially if Ross is not going to be able to get out of this current hand here. So while yes, Alakazam can be used, at least it's another attacker. There's the Meowth, Ethan.
Considering getting Pheasantipity involved, and I like this idea from Abaan. Start to target Pokemon on the bench. You know your opponent's hand is weak. You don't want to give them access to that Run Errand ability. Start to deal damage to bench Pokemon and make it so that if they don't have switching cards, you'll get yourself back in this prize race.
And the question is, was Ross able to find a Pheasantipity potentially off of those 3 Pokemon in the prizes or his draw for turn? And I don't think it was here. So it is going to be having Pheasantipity getting into the mix here, taking out that Slowpoke on the bench. At least it's 1 attacker per player.
Do you even target the Slowpoke is the thing. You don't want to give your opponent that flip the script ability as the time goes. It's going to be Mega Kangaskhan EX now put in range of a Phantom Dive. Ross, another big top deck. Can he find something to bail himself out? I wasn't sure exactly what was found from the top. It's a Night Stretcher, but that's not going to give him the help that he needs. It's just going to be a pass over of the turn. Abaan's Pheasantipity is working overtime.
At this point, right, you can still keep stacking on this damage, and even 1 more turn of using this Cruel Arrow could allow for some massive knockouts to be for next turn, right? You could set up the Meowth on Ross's side thanks to Risky Ruins, like you had mentioned a little bit earlier, and Monkey Dory to be able to get Abaan back into this game.
Now Dragapult EX can be evolved and protect that Pokemon from a Trifrost down the line. Kadabra found off Pokepad. This may be the momentum Abaan needs to get back in this game.
It is so close, Ethan. Back and forth here. Psychic Draw. 2 more cards here.
Just looking at the hand, there's Dragapult EX, Rosa's encouragement, powering this Pokemon up, has the fire energy in hand as well. Abaan can continue to use Cruel Arrow to capitalize off of potential poor draws on Ross's side. 100 damage on Latias, finds the Psychic Energy from the top.
What are the attackers though, Ethan? Like we had mentioned, there are at least 1 in that discard, and it will be that Metagross. But the problem is, do you realistically want to use it on something like a Pheasantipity when you would much rather use it on that Dragapult waiting in the wings?
Would take the knockout. Abaan is not threatening game on the following turn. You'd go down to 1 prize card. There's a high chance your Slowpoke is not KO'd on the following turn. It just feels like giving your opponent an extra turn with no pressure being applied could backfire.
It's so scary too, because Ross may only have 1 Mega Kangaskhan in that hand left. Might have to actually bench it here just because Abaan is sort of trying to show him that these damage counters are going to be flying over to Latias EX, thus making Mega Kangaskhan stuck into the active here. There is the Night Stretcher for the Metagross. That is the only opportunity to attack. Seeking inspiration, Ross down to 1 prize card, but it's not looking comfortable.
Needs to take 1 prize card, but could be a hard prize to take. Dragapult EX comes up into the active spot. Buddy Poffin, and look at that pink A-Spec unfair stamp still in the deck. This would be a crucial turn for Abaan to find that card. Has information that Ross's hand is poor, but you never know if those 2 prize cards were beneficial enough.
Using the Ultra Ball now to set up either the Alakazam here or get that Monkey Dory into play, but instead, no, wants to see the Dragapult and kind of thin down the deck, because these cards off of the unfair stamp could be the difference between Abaan taking this game and sticking Ross where he has it, or if Abaan is going to be able to link a couple of attacks together and take these massive multi-prize turns.
Here we go, big Psychic draw for 3 cards, finds the unfair stamp. What a draw for Abaan. Energy in hand on the Alakazam, deciding whether or not to play it, and he will. Unfair stamp on the final turn it can be played will force Ross to shuffle that hand in and draw just 2 cards.
And it'll be just a Mega Kangaskhan versus the world at this point here. Now, fortunately for Ross, no Monkey Dory and Risky Ruins going into play here, so this Slowpoke, I believe, is going to be safe. But what can you do, Ethan, off of 2 cards from Unfair Stamp to get the win?
Now Abaan is threatening game himself in 2 turns. Phantom Dive can set Latias up on the bench. Ross is now put potentially on a 1-turn clock. And look at that, finds Boss's orders off his 5 cards for the following turn. Abaan is having everything go right after such a crucial loss early on in the game. There's the Phantom Dive, puts this Latias up into range, KOing the Slowking. We'll take 1 prize card, that Kangaskhan damaged early on, and this is the turn for Ross. Can he put together a big attack?
The draw for turn, Ethan, I believe was at least a Lily's Determination here.
Wow.
My goodness, there's the Lily's Clefairy as well. Is the bench full enough on both sides for Full Moon Rondo to take the knockout if he's able to find Wondrous Patch and another energy to go along?
There would be a total of 7 bench Pokemon. That's 140 damage plus the 20 base. You see Ross smiling. He understands what he needs. Just an energy and and a Wondrous Patch would be enough, assuming there's that last bench Pokemon. Abaan holding onto his hand, knows that it's going to come down to if Ross can find this.
This is horrifying.
And we're getting a judge shuffle, ladies and gentlemen. Getting involved, an unbiased party. Ross Cawthon. A huge moment for him. He's going to draw these 6 cards. There's the energy card. Secret box! That's going to guarantee it! Ross Cawthon is going to take this asymmetrical top cut match. Going to check through the pieces, make sure that's there. There's a basic Psychic Energy in the discard pile. Going to just go through the motions. Draw these 2 cards first with Mega Kangaskhan. Finds the Pokemon Pheasantipity EX. 7 benched Pokemon. Lily's Clefairy EX. Full Moon Rondo. He's going to take his time, make sure everything's in place. The telepathic Psychic Energy can check the deck, find another Pokemon, double check the math, double check the work, make sure there are absolutely no mistakes going on. Let's see Ross go through the motions.
Ethan, it's going to be using that A-Spec secret box for an item most important here, and it is going to be the Wondrous Patch. As long as Ross has 1 basic Psychic Energy in the discard, that is going to guarantee it. Pheasantipity, does he see the line?
Does he not see that Lily's Clefairy just wins the game? 3 cards drawn. There's the secret box. Ross is putting us through a loop, ladies and gentlemen. There's the discard. 3 cards can find any trainer card out of the deck.
And assuming there's a Wondrous Patch, there's one in the discard pile, and there it is! Shows it to Abaan Ahmed, and Ross Cawthon is going to advance to the top 8 here at NAIC.